I'm thankful to have the invitation to be here to speak, and I hope my voice carries. Otherwise, I may have to stay by the mic. But oh wow, there's some back there too. Y'all caught me by surprise. I'm thankful. I hope you take something away from what I'm going to discuss today, and that it will be useful to you. If not, I will try my best to maybe just try to be entertaining. Maybe I'll do a dance at the end. But so I won't prolong it. But what I will talk about first is that I want you to think about change and moving to a next level. Think about here at ETSU. In 1963, I believe that's when the name changed to East Tennessee State University. What if the curricula that was established in 1963 for all the degree programs was still the same? How relevant would that curricula be? Would it be relevant today? Would we have the number of students that we have today? So I think we all agree, and we'll start with the platform, that if I said that, good is never good enough, we're always striving to get to the next level. So when we say next level, it's not a plateau. We're always going to compete against other universities, against other organizations. So what we need to do is talk about now, how do we get to the next level? I talk about ETSU Vision because I want to talk about the departments of ETSU a little bit. So I have displayed for you what the vision is here at ETSU. And what I will say is that every unit, every department here at ETSU are partners in excellence. We cannot achieve excellence without working together. We have to work together as a team. And how do you do that? How do you get to excellence? Excellence is going to require us to not only have a strong work ethic behind us and creativity, but we're also going to have to work as a team and have some sense of leadership. Hence, we have Dr. President Nolan as the president providing leadership of the university. And with every organization, you have leadership set up into the departments, into the divisions, down to the units. You can take it into programs like athletics and the coaches, and the leadership continues down to make sure that you have teams and pockets working together. So every step that we take towards getting to next level, when we reach another level, that's one step we're getting closer to excellence, because excellence keeps evolving. What was excellent in 1989 is probably not excellent today. Or as technology change, as we improve and we have more available to us in resources, we have to change with it. So let's talk about a team. This is my definition of how I define a team. Team has to be a group of people. Fundamentally, you've got to have common goals. You've got to work together and know that that is the end, that you have a purpose to being together. That commitment to it has to be there. It can't be that we know that there's a goal, but some say, I don't care if we reach it or not. That's going to stall the process of being able to attain it. We need to work effectively because we each have to take ownership in thinking about we are responsible for the outcomes. In my department for public safety, I have 21 sworn positions. Is there one position over another that makes that department better or worse? We have to work together. There is each officer has to be committed to getting a positive outcome towards what the goal is that we're trying to accomplish. So some of the things that a team needs, and I apologize if it's not real clear or big, but I tried to get it as big as I could on here. First thing is you want to talk about is common goals. That's our reason. That's what brings us together. The goals have to be clear. You got to understand misinterpretation can cause frustration and, again, hinder the process of being able to achieve it. You want to have interaction and involvement. With a team, we cannot have one person controlling and doing all of the work. We have to have each member assign and know their role. Anybody sports in here? No? NBA? No? Okay. Well, we had a great football season this year with Randy Sanders coming, right? Anybody get to the football games? No? Oh, okay. I got one down there that did. All right. So we were actually co-champions with our conference this year. And I had the opportunity to address the team before the season started. And one of the things I talked to them about was that, each of them as a team, you can say, this is my position, this is what I do, but you've got to have an understanding and awareness of what the others do and respect that. And you've got to work together. You cannot say that, well, I'm the quarterback, but I don't care about the receivers or the defensive back or the linebackers. Everyone has a role. Everyone has a position. Where do you put them? There's a book, Good to Great. And in that, it talks about having the right people on the bus in the right positions. We have to be honest with ourselves. We've got to be honest if you're in the leadership role of this team to be able to identify the strengths and weaknesses of those members and try to put them in the roles that fit them best and help them to see it. I, in high school, played basketball. And I have been, and I'm going to stand so everybody can see me, I have been this height since the 3rd grade. My shoe size did not change. I have been 5'2". So everyone thought I was going to be tall. I was going to be massive. And so I got put into basketball real early. And where I once was the center, by the time I got in high school, I'm the point guard, and they want me to give the ball away. But I want to shoot, and I want to be the star, and I want to go down low and still think I can make the layups. Well, the goal is higher now. It's not what it used to be in my age group. I'm playing with kids who are now taller than me. I had to adjust and know my role. I had to develop the skills and ability to lead my team in basketball games. I could no longer provide that post position or forward position. So same philosophy here when we're involvement and interaction of the members. Everybody's got a role. Everybody has something that they can contribute to. Functional authority. You can give somebody a team, or you can have a team and say, we're going to work on a project, but they have no authority to accomplish or to make changes or to gather resources. How effective will they be? So they have to have some sense of authority to make decisions. Leaders within the organization cannot micromanage and there can't be just a sole dictator in making those decisions. You've got to be able to trust the teams. And when you have a large enough team, like what I say we are for President Nolan, we're a team. There is no way that he can say, well, I'm going to make all the decisions for the Department of Public Safety. I'll make all the decisions for facilities. I'll make all the decisions for the College of Education. Those leaders in those roles are trusted to do that. And in their teams, they are trusting those leaders within there to make that. So we have got to continue and think about that as you develop smaller teams and subunits. That is a concept that still needs to be in place and needs to be made aware that there has to be a look at whether or not they have some type of authority to make decisions. Individual self-esteem. It's important that we deposit into people. Sometimes we make withdrawals, and it's very easy to critique what coulda, woulda, shoulda happened and what they did wrong. What are they doing right? And sometimes the outsider can see the strength in someone else that they can't see in themselves. Are we inputting that? Are we sharing that as part of the team? My experience when I was in the Navy, I was one of the youngest in my unit. And when I was stationed in Puerto Rico, and I would go in, and I felt though that I knew my job in and out, and I had the desire to always learn. So I went in trying to quiz, take notes from everyone because they've had more experience than me, what you do, how you do. And in doing so, I developed a rapport with my team to the point that I found my supervisor, which was 3 ranks higher than me, had an issue with his self-esteem and felt that when he made decisions, that he needed buy-in. And if anyone disagreed or asked him a question on it, he would just back away and say, well, maybe that's not a decision. What do y'all think? And just leave it. And one day that happened with another worker, and I said, well, I defended his position. And I was like, what you just said, I really support, and I think because of this, this, and this. And then the other person's idea, I pointed out some of the shortcomings to that and what would be problematic if we did it. And afterwards he came to me, he was like, no one's ever did that before. And he said, I'm shocked that you're the newest, the youngest, and you're speaking up like that. And I appreciate that. Keep that and continue it. That deposited into me, but I felt I deposited into him by being able to do it and not knowing, just thinking for the good of the unit, what the ideas were coming forth, what's going to work best, how will we achieve it. Attention to detail, very important that, the team, everyone has, strengths, like I mentioned, but whether or not somebody has got to have the details, somebody's got to be empowered to think the small, little things. Everyone thinking big picture, thinking down the road, 10 months from now is not going to get us 10 months from now. How do you get on the road? What are your steps? How do you get those objectives in place? Those detail people are going to help you in that. With mutual trust, if you don't trust each other, your team members, and you don't trust your boss, that team is going to have a hard time moving to the next level, because trust is fundamental. We can say all day long that, I'm fair. I don't really necessarily need to trust you to work with you. I've heard many people, anybody said that? I don't need to trust you to work with you. I've heard people say that, and I think that's really hard, because how do you know where that decision or that action or that question is coming from if you believe that that person is not someone trustworthy, someone that doesn't have your best interest at heart or the best interest of your team or the organization? So integrity is fundamental. At this point here, how do you get with that? We'll talk later on about the core values. Values system is important within developing that mutual trust. Every department, every organization has to have some type of values. I will share later on my department's values. Respect for differences. Everyone has opinions. Everyone has ideas. There's no idea that we should think about and say, well, that's just way too far off. Give it credit. Think about it. It may sound foreign to you. I've had ideas that were brought up to me, and it wasn't until 2 years later it comes back around to think about it. I'm like, I understand that idea now, and I could see where that was coming from, although I couldn't see it then. But I still received it enough to write it down and to keep it in my repertoire to think back on it. So when you're on a team or you're within the organization, don't minimize others and their ideas or their opinions. Everybody has them. Encourage the sharing of them. The value comes when you have diversity and you have different trains of thoughts. If everyone thought the same, that organization is going to suffer because they don't have the diversity to reach the masses. We sitting in this room don't all think the same. So an organization or a team is servicing us, we in this room. They have to have that diversity. Constructive conflict resolution. There are times where teams get caught up with the first time that there is a conflict and they think they're doomed. That this is failure. There's positives in having conflict. I had the opportunity to speak to the ELA program a couple months ago in their training session, and we talked about conflict resolution. How do you know in a team where differences are if you don't vocalize them and say it? That's the conflict. A conflict is a difference of opinion. a difference of thought. Does it say one is better than the other, one is more than the other? It's how we act upon those differences that makes a conflict negative. If you take it as someone is belittling you, berating you, or chastising you because they have a different opinion and they question it, or they bring up loopholes within your opinion of things that may be problematic and potential, if you take it as the opportunity to say, well, now you brought that to my attention, this idea I'm going to work on to cover that, but still keep to the end agenda of what you're trying to do. Now you're contributing to the team because we're still on the road to getting to excellence. We're taking the next step. But if you shut down and you don't share ideas, and we make one decision that someone says this is what we'll do, and others had difference of thoughts, but no one cared to vocalize it, then we make that decision and we do it, and it's not to the betterment of the team. We're at a loss and we're at a standstill. Now we've got to come back and regroup again. It's better to get all trains of thoughts together. So resolution, conflict is a conflict resolution can be positive if you make it positive. We make the decision if we want to receive it as negative, but it does bring about conversation and freedom of thought and choice. Leadership is important because someone has to be able to provide oversight and see that all members are working together. When all members work together, you've got synergy, and you need that synergy. You need everyone going, but you've got to have someone, as like I mentioned earlier with the example for our football team this year, Coach Sanders and his coaching team, they are the leaders for that football team. If the football players just got out on the field every Saturday and did what they want, would they've had that success? That leader had to help them to see where weaknesses were, where their skills needed to be sharpened, and develop them and look from the outside in what they're doing. Open communication, you have to have that. Everyone has to be able to talk and share ideas and speak their mind. So leadership, 3 areas to focus on when you're in the leadership role for the team or the organization is that you want to, if it's an area that has chaos or many moving parts, you've got to establish some type of order, some guidelines, some principles to work from. Without that, it's going to stay chaotic. It's not going to be. Inspiring action. So you can't just focus on the order part, but you got to inspire the people, the members that are working together on this team to do their part, to move towards the end goal. What are we trying to accomplish? What do we want? And again, within that, being able to inspire, there has to be that trust. You have to be able to display that you are trustworthy and credible as a leader for them to think, I can move and trust to take this next step. Anyone enjoys just doing something new every day? They seek out opportunities. I'm going to go do something new every day. A lot of us don't. A lot of us, I bet if I ask you, how many ways do you go home? You probably take the same route home every day. Do you actively every day seek a new route to get to your house? Seek a new route to come to ETSU? We don't arbitrarily look to make change. So change can be difficult. You can have those emotions of fear, anxiety, because it's the unknown. That's why there's, it's change. If you know everything, you're not really changing anything. For me, I do try, since I'm new to the area, I get lost all the time because I want to take a new road, see where does this lead me? How do I go? I like to explore a little bit, but it also helps me to feel comfortable with change because I hadn't always been that way. We got to remember, most people from the military, we have this perception of being rigid, stuck in place, because the great thing about being in the military, I never had to think about, like I did today, what am I going to put on? How am I going to make my outfit work? What color going to look good on me? I never had that worry. I knew what I was wearing every day, and it was supplied to me. I didn't have to go buy it. And so I really liked structure, and I did not like change. And when I got out of the military, it was very, very difficult because I had options where before you didn't have those things. And what helps me is to keep that exploring mindset. So I do it personally to help me in my work, because I found when I got into the civilian life careers, changes were a little difficult because it was like it was happening a lot more often than in the military. Improving performance, being able to give feedback that is positive, that can keep them motivated to keep moving to the next level, to take it to a higher standard, not stay the status quo. It's so easy to do that, but when we do that, I tell everyone, good, I never want to be good, because good is the enemy to great. So if you see yourself as being good, you're not going to actively seek to change anything. I'm okay. And if I'm striving to be good, I'm working. Probably if I'm at good, I'm going to get to great at some point. We have to keep that mindset to keep moving forward. So, stages of team development. First thing you got to ask yourself if you're developing a team, or why are we here? So this is now with your goals. What are you going to do? What is it that we need? So with that, why are we here? Each member has to ask themselves, why are they here, and know what their role is going to be in contributing on this team, what position they're going to play. I've talked before about the Seattle and Steph Curry, and that if Steph tried to play a post position, they wouldn't be winning NBA championships. It'd be a problem. He's got to stay in his lane. He's got to know what his role is. The coach establishes rules, and he's probably telling Steph, you can shoot the threes from the perimeter. You can, stay out if you get the open lane, drive in, but I don't want you going down trying to play post on defense. You stay out guard because you're fast. Use your speed. He's telling him what his strengths are and where his role is and how he contributes to the team. Make sure to clarify the mission and purpose. Again, those goals are fundamental, and where the resources are. Some of the emotions in this period when you're forming is excitement. We're coming together. We're going to make this happen. We all agree. We've got these goals. We know what we want to do. There'll be some people who may have some anxiety because they're like, oh my gosh, I ain't never really worked with this many people, or, now I'm not sure I can perform on my role, what I have to do to contribute. It's normal. Those things will happen. The things that could happen that we want to try to make sure to prepare for is when you have those personality clashes. When you bring people together, they have their own mindset and where they are. How do you deal with that when they're starting to clash? Or they may have had previous interaction that is now still haunting them in their current role and where they are because they never dealt with the issue. Or you have the defensiveness that if asked to do something different or to change, they feel as though, well, are you picking on me? Why do I have to? If we've got a team of 5 or 6 people working on this, you're asking me to do it. And so, again, giving the feedback about why and strengthening deposits of what they bring, because that should be in our decision making of how we assign our roles. We're looking at who's going to contribute to the best part. In the Navy, we would always say you're only as strong as your weakest link. Find the weakest link and build that link. Work towards that link. How can we get along and make it happen? Because at this point, once you've come and you've got the excitement, you got the team, now you've got ideas flowing, and there's probably going to be some conflict within those that is going to surface. So you've got to now talk about how you listen and encourage that we respect the differences, and that how the value is going to come from listening and understanding that. We've got to create a culture that appreciates the differences of ideas and staying focused with it. If we don't collaborate, you can't move forward with a team. There has to be there. You've got to do it. Keeping the train moving. You've got the team going, and now you've dealt with the conflicts, the issues of differences. Now we kind of get to a norming stage where everybody kind of understands what their role is and they're willing to compromise and work together. There's some potential dangers in that. And one of that is you can have where individuals now lose individual thought and they want to group think. And it's whatever the group says. So you got to be careful in this stage that you still encourage people to think independently, but compromise as a group to work together with the best idea for the outcome, and not just rely that, well, I'm not going to make a decision. I need the whole group to come together and to do it. So we've got to encourage that. Again, diagnosing problems and solving them. I heard someone once say that commercial, being a security monitor. So when the bank is being robbed, the security guard is standing there and the lady says, "Hey, aren't you going to do something?" And he says, "Oh, I'm not a security guard, I'm a security monitor. There's a problem," but he's not going to do anything. We have to have some problem solvers in that. How do we keep the train moving? Again, now we're talking about maximizing efficiencies to get results. You have to continue. You can't stay in the norming stage that we're all good. We got to keep pushing it to go to the next level, which means we're going to continue to look at problems and solve them and work on them. There's never going to be a time that there's not a problem. If it is, something's not right. We're not looking at us and seeing where we can go to the next level, because you will be able to identify something. The atmosphere has to be conducive for positive dialogue. You've got to work together on it. So adaptation, making sure that we, I quoted that first part is from, I was listening to Joel Osteen, and he talked about that with a tree and your environment and positive soil and where you put things. And when I was in college, the institution I went to, we wore shirts that said you're known by the company that you keep, which made you had to keep thinking about, are you displaying character that is what that institution wanted to be recognized as? We were the ambassadors of that institution for that. You put a tree in a 3-foot pot, it's never going to fulfill its purpose. It's not going to grow where it's supposed to go if it stays there. And it's not because of the seed. It's not because of the tree. It's because of the environment, which means we have to continue to assess what we're doing in our atmosphere for a team, in our environment that we're working in. Are we making it conducive to everyone? Having the attitudes that they're not going to fix something if it's not broke, or, it wasn't a problem 10 years ago. We got away with doing it this way. Why can't we continue? Anybody still have the same cell phone they had 10 years ago? Do you? It probably still work, right? Won't it? If you charge it? I don't know. Everybody tells me the iPhones quit in 3 years. That's why I try not to get on that iPhone thing. But why? We don't have that philosophy in our personal things. But when it comes to work, you'll find people who have tenure who will think there's no need. But you can't soar. You can't get to new heights if you keep doing things the same and not seeing where there are opportunities to grow. I gave a speech one time and I talked about eagles and how a mother eagle will take the eaglet, put it on back, go up high in the air and drop it. Now, that eaglet has to do one or two things. It's going to have to learn to flap them wings and fly, or it's going to have to learn it's going to hit the ground. First time, mom comes, swoops under, brings them back up. Eaglet's like, put me back in the nest. Don't ever take me back out again. Just bring me the worms. I don't need to go out there. Why are you doing this? If mom left the eaglet sitting in the nest and just kept bringing worms, the eaglet will never know how to fly and know what its wings are for. Takes it out again. This time, it goes a little further. You get close to the ground, the eaglet starts to flap the wings and to go. That's how they teach them. We don't do that with our kids as far as take them, get them out the crib and throw them out on the street and say, walk. We try to hold the hand and get them to walk and to go, right? But that's what you have to think about with your team and the concept. We're not going to be necessarily the eagle and throw them out the nest and say from, 10,000 feet high, sink or swim. But we do want to encourage them to step out, to go to the next level, to move. So that's where you think about, well, how did it work for you in getting encouraged to make a new move or to do something? We work together with that. Ask yourself this: am I a problem monitor or solver? Problem solvers are like thermostats. They set the temperature of the room. But if you are a monitor, then you're a thermometer. All you're doing is telling us what the temperature is. Your team can't change, can't grow. The organization won't move without having the thermostats. Somebody's got to be able to take people to the next level. And Michael Jordan is one of my best all-time favorite NBA players. And I think if y'all hadn't taken anything from this talk, y'all know I am into sports, right? You're like, that chief loves her sports. You must first expect great things of yourself before you can do them. If he didn't think he could fly, Nike wouldn't have advertised the shoes that he could fly, and we wouldn't talk about him flying. He had to be able to believe in himself, that what he could do on the court, make it happen. You have to remind your team and yourself that's what you have to do on a daily basis. Some key essentials to organizational survival is having that clear mission and vision and shared values, making sure you have a proactive approach to change. Change is not, if you go in like, oh gosh, supervisor coming again, and I know it's going to be another change because about every 6 months we have something, they want to have a meeting and you're already dreading it. That's not a proactive approach. Proactive is saying we're going in and we're having a meeting, and normally during these meetings we get the opportunity to make this organization or this team better. I wonder what ideas we can come up with to go to the new level, the next level. That's being proactive. Continuous learning, having that open and honest communication all the time, and being willing to motivate employees. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there are some people who don't want to be motivated. And no matter what you say, they will say, I hear you, but I'm not moving. Do you spend 90% of your time on that person? Who would think yes? Good. No. You've got other members you've got to focus on. You need to focus on encouraging those. Don't let the one or the few deter you from accomplishing your goals. When I went into the Navy, they were like, women can't go on ships. And they were fine with that. And they were fine with saying that you won't make rank because you can't get ship time. So you will progress at a slower rate than your male counterparts, even though you perform the same job. Now, I could have said, well, that's just the way it is, and that's how that's going to be. But as soon as I had the opportunity to meet the Master Chief of the Navy, I took advantage of that to say, hey, I like the Navy, I love what I do, but I won't stay here because the glass ceiling that you've put for women. And I have to know that I am valued, and I should be able to promote equally. There's not a male on my base that can outrun me, outperform me, but yet they will promote before me, and I don't understand why. Is you have the opportunity to explain that, I'd appreciate it, because I think I could work on the ship the same as any male could work on the ship. Didn't know 6 months later it'd be like, oh, your name was drawn. You're selected to go on the ship. But in doing so, you got to be willing to see that there's got to be change. There's something that we can do. Appreciation of the conflict and diversity of thought. I know I've said it over and over. I can't tell you enough. Sometimes we are people, we're human. When someone doesn't agree with us or they say something different to us, we may not want to receive it. We may think it's an attack on us. That's not a team concept. It's not personal. You gotta be willing to put your mindset to think, this is for the good of the team. This is not a direct attack to me. This is about how what I'm doing could be better, and how my thought or my idea could still be used if it's tweaked to be more inclusive or to do more of what is being asked. We have to evaluate. If you never evaluate, you don't know where you need improvement. I can tell you that Coach Sanders, after every football game on Sunday, they came back and evaluated what they did, what each of the teams that were on the field, how they performed, and what happened so that they can make corrections. Anybody ever flew in a plane? Do you know that a lot of times when you're in a plane that at least 90% of the route, so say you get on the plane from Knoxville and you're flying to LA, California, about 90% of that way, the plane is going off course. You don't think about that when you're riding in a plane, but you got that pilot up there. And that pilot's job is to make tweaks constantly to get it back on course. So that way, 4.5 hours later, you've left Knoxville and arrived in LA, and you never knew that 90% the plane was trying to deviate and go in different directions. If that pilot was not sitting up there and evaluating, if he was asleep, then you may wake up in Puerto Rico on the opposite side because it just didn't go the way it was supposed to. So don't be afraid of that. Think about that when you're talking about evaluating. Evaluating doesn't mean I'm going to find something negative. I'm going to find something I can fix, I can make right, I can correct. And when you do that, you're not afraid to look back at it and see. Strong leadership and skilled management is last. You definitely need those things for taking the team. I appreciate you for taking the time to listen to me talk. If you have any questions, I'll open it up now. It doesn't have to be about this. If you want a question about my career, anything, the floor is yours.
I have a question. You were talking about that good is the enemy to great. I love that. That's a great quote. And you also talked about ownership as being integral to teamwork and success and soaring and going to the next level. So how do you recommend, if ownership is part of what we need to do to soar and to achieve greatness, and then how do we build ownership in ourselves or in the teams that we're working on?
Yeah.
Either way.
So I think first, ownership with yourself. It doesn't matter what job you're doing or what the task is. You've got to see yourself as saying, I am needed. This is my purpose for this task. My first job working at Crystals, I saw my purpose as being the customer associate that is going to make people happy to walk into the store. That meant as soon as they walked in the store, hi, welcome to Crystals. I'm excited. I want them to be excited that I'm happy to see them. Now they're happy. They may have come in sad or thinking, I just coming to get some crystals. Now they're like, oh, wow, she really likes me or she's excited to see me. And it changes the atmosphere. I own that. When I had to do mop duty and clean the restrooms, I didn't like that. But I was like, you know what? I'm the person that is detail-oriented. I know that when I do it, this bathroom is going to be so clean that people are going to be like, wow, I'd rather go to that store and use the bathroom than to go home because they think it's that clean. Take ownership to say whatever the task may be, you're going to do it at the very best because it's your name, it's your brand, you're bringing it. And when you do that, then you are now owning that part and you will see a difference in the outcomes of what you do. But if you're saying I'm just doing this because this is a task and it doesn't matter if I do it or anybody else do it, then you're probably not going to do it at your best. And it's probably not going to be something that you can brag about later with it. I did say, and I failed to mention when I was talking about the trust aspect on the end, was that that comes back to values. And every organization or every team, even personally, you have to have values. I have personal values. No matter the money, they cannot pay me enough. I will not take a job that I feel will cause me to have conflict with my integrity and my principles for treating people with respect. I can't do it. And I got into law enforcement, and that was, I thought, 6 months in, I might need to quit, because people were like, you talk at the people, and when they're getting arrested, they don't have any rights. They're not worthy of anything. And I'm like, they're people, and I value people. And there's no one that I want to disrespect or see hurt, harm, or endanger. So oftentimes in my career, I would have fellow officers to come to me and in their way think that they're telling me that I need to change, because they say, well, you're being too nice to that person. They're going to be arrested. You don't have to be that nice to them. Why are you calling them sir or ma'am? You need to treat them like how they're going to be treated when they get into jail. And I said, well, I hope when they get into jail, they're going to still call them sir or ma'am, because that's who they are. They're people. They made a bad decision, but that doesn't mean they deserve to be disrespected and not. And so I could not work in that. But I had a supervisor, and I said, I understand. I receive what you're saying. But for me, I have to develop a rapport with every person I come in contact with. It's just how I am. It's just how I'm wired. And I don't mean any disrespect with it. And if it causes problems and I have to get bad marks on my performance evaluations for it, I understand. And I took bad performance evaluations because they were saying I was too nice. I was a cupcake cop and all of these things. And I'm like, but every arrest I had, they thanked me when they got to the jail. I even had people to send me cards. I don't have a problem with that. I don't. I take that all day long. I don't want to be in Walmart looking over my shoulder thinking somebody's I've arrested 10 years ago is going to come and attack me because I've made their life difficult. How you treat people. For me, the ownership, your principles, core values. So for my department, core values, DPS is EPIC. Excellence, professionalism, integrity, and community. So in everything we do and in our service to ETSU and to the Johnson City, we're looking to be EPIC. Serve with excellence, professionalism, integrity, and community.
This is a little off topic, but from the outside, I've heard a lot about the problems with sexual assault in the Navy and the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if, especially being one of the first women on carriers, if you've known or had any experience firsthand from if that was a big issue in your day.
Yes, it was. I was in during time, and y'all might not even have been born, with a tail hook that took place in Las Vegas, and that shed light and brought awareness nationally to what was going on. And when I was in, yes, that was prevalent, and it was harder, which helped me in molding me to experience that early on, to be like, I've got to be a voice and be an advocate, because of seeing where people were quiet and you couldn't say anything because you would be reprimanded, or things will be made difficult for you and you'd have to get transferred away from the base and to do things if you said anything, because a lot of times it was from the leadership down and you had nowhere to go. Today, I think that we've gotten better. So I wouldn't probably think it would be as worse because of more of the consciousness of that we do need to report, and the fact that if it is found out, how the public eye and the ridicule and the pressure and how prevalent will be. And we're going as a nation, I see us inching towards a zero tolerance. I think people are starting to get fed up, and the more they see it and realize they're wanting to do something to stop it. So I would think that now, if I compare to the decades ago that I was in, people have more encouragement to report and less repercussions as a result of it. I can't say that there's zero, but I would believe that there's got to be a significant lot less because of the external support and the opportunity to take it to the media, where back then we didn't even have cell phones, so you really couldn't even get the issue out there without, so. a good question.
How much of a structural lifestyle you felt in the Navy carried over into your
So, a lot of it. I still, the Navy part, the structure of knowing the comfort of being prepared, I think is why I tried other careers. I was a project manager. I was a abuse registry counselor. I was a manager in fast food. Done a lot of things, but I found that for me, structure is somewhat my comfortability, and that there has to be that set boundaries and structure. So the career I've chosen to be in law enforcement, personally, what I do, I'm a structured individual, which I think is required in my profession, that I do have to hold myself to a higher standard because I'm responsible to enforce laws and take people's rights away from them. How can I do that if I don't control myself and hold myself to not violate laws and do things? So, yeah, but it did. I'm trying to get my son to go and stuff. I believe there is something to be taught with the structure and having that. I don't think I'd be where I am now and have promoted as quickly as I did if I hadn't went into the military first. I've only been in law enforcement 13 years, and to go every rank in 13 years, from police officer to level 2 to corporal to sergeant to lieutenant to captain and assistant chief, and spend time within those ranks, is something that I think the military put me on that pedestal to be able to do that and achieve it as quickly as I did, because I didn't come in with control issues and not being able to perform under stress and to work. And to be honest, there's majority of women in here. My career has been with men. So being a woman and being the only woman a lot of times on the shift, in the unit, or one or two of 15 on the ship, you've got to learn how to, one, get buy-in and trust, and they believe that you're able to perform equally to them. And if I hadn't have been able to work successfully in that, coming into law enforcement mirrors the exact same. I wouldn't been able to work effectively with my male counterparts also. Yes.
Yep, you just answered the question I was going to ask. How, as a woman in predominantly male career fields, have you managed to adapt, and what advice would you give others?
I will say early on, be humble and go through, because a lot of times in my career, when I was as a corporal, I did work for the male sergeant, his reports. When I was a sergeant, I did the work for the lieutenant. When I was a corporal, I did work for the lieutenant and the captain. And I never took credit for it. I gave the credit, and I found that in some atmospheres, in some institutions I've been at, that I was not perceived or received well in giving ideas because of my rank. So I would just talk to others and share it to them and let it become their idea, so it would go through for the benefit of the department. But because, when you have intimate knowledge, it was your idea, and you have that passion and that thrive for it, it's not really work, and you want to help and you want to see it through. Now you're a part of the team that made that happen. And so my name doesn't have to be that I created this and I did that, but they can't take that knowledge from me, that I came with the idea and I worked and I contributed and I participated as a member on that team to make that happen. And from that, I used it to interview and go to other institutions and catapult and build on the career by being a part and not being afraid to say that, you know what, you're not going to respect me as a woman. I can't push that on you. But what I will do is show you I am human and I have value, and continue to keep showing that value, and let that be your guide. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you so much.